growing.
Place to draw their reference from. Like at Peace in the Light is, it's out there still, and what I want people to do is this is how to deal with the issues of mom and dad and loss, and how in 150 experiences to create closure. I think one of the most horrendous things that happen is we have not set up a methodology by which people can develop closure by using a near-death experience as a way to look at life. All the things that's happened to me in these near-death experiences, both of them, has only brought me closer to understanding that we are powerful spiritual beings. We're heroes. We're not subject as little waves cast upon the land. We have a certain job and a mission because there is a great event about to take place. It will either be the most perfect, wonderful change, or it will be the biggest mess we've ever been in, but it will be self-wrought. And mine is to say, hey, guys, I'm not from India. I didn't, I may talk like Deepak Chopra because I always laugh at Deepak and tell him he talks funny, but when he listens to this Southern American accent, he says I really don't have any place to talk to him. But
Daniel, as you look down the thread of what might happen, either a wonderful event or a horrible event, is there something, should the horrible event occur, is there something on the other side of that, do you know?
Oh, yeah.
In other words,
it doesn't really matter what we do. By 2012, that event will be here.
Do we rise like a phoenix?
Oh yes, yeah. We're the champions. We're the great. We are the great champions, and we will succeed. From 1975 to 1989, or when I turned 40 years old, I had lost faith. I couldn't believe that as the predictions started coming true, and I didn't know it was the future art. I just saw it started happening, and it kept happening, and I kept working on the centers, and I started doing hospice work, which I honestly and sincerely believe that the greatest endeavor that any of us can do is to do hospice work.
What do you tell people when you go to a person who's dying, who's scared, who's holding on to their last breath, fighting for life? What do you tell these people? They know they're dying. What do you tell them?
You'd be amazed at how many people really want to talk about it. People who are leaving this world know that they are. The National Hospice Association teaches techniques. Then there's a group that's called the Project Nightlights, which is out of California, that really helps people deal with those issues. I sit with the person, and mostly I listen, and I want to hear their life story. So they begin to have the panoramic life review. And as they begin to have on this side what's going to happen on the other side, and to help them bring a certain level of peace into that. If a person wants to talk to me, everyone's individual. But I teach a 5-hour workshop that teaches nothing but the technique to enable people to be there in those moments. I think that it's so important that we learn that by being with people as they leave this world, we grow spiritual. It is the greatest opportunity for spiritual growth that there is, and I try to eliminate the fear of it, and to be able to have closure in family relationships. That's what that piece is about, to have closure in these relationships, and to grow intuitively and spiritual within the context of the events that's unfolding in this world, because we are here because we chose to be here. We are the champions, and we will not fail. We will succeed, but we must take a hold on it. Here's one of the two important things that will occur. We're about to have a massive paradigm shift. Our whole structure, our whole basis of our cultural civilization, what happens if they really do discover there's UFOs? What happens to religion? What happens if, as these things keep on unfolding, and events that other people like me have had, I'm not the only one. I just happen to have known every single person, and I met Raymond because he went to the Medical College of Georgia. I met Dr. Ritchie and all the people who were researching it, and I've had the pleasure of being around them. But what happens, there's one other thing I'd like to bring up. And
Daniel, let me stop you there. You tell me, what happens if we discover that there is life from elsewhere? Suppose we discovered that life actually seeded our life, that it challenges the present religious paradigm altogether.
Well, it's going to do it.
Yeah, all right. So what happens, Daniel?
Won't it be fun? Won't it be fun? Can't you wait till you turn on the Reverend Ainsley?
There was, Daniel, there was something called the Brookings Report. You know about that?
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Well, the Brookings Report suggested that it would be horrible that if
religion would collapse,
yes,
governments would collapse.
That's right.
Institutions would collapse.
That's right.
Well, I think that's a thrilling idea, Art. I'm sick and tired of the lying dogs myself. I can't wait. I'm so excited because what happens if the government collapses, Art? You know what you'll do? You'll go next door. Well, maybe not you, Art, because you hide out in the desert.
Yes, I do.
But you would go next door to see what your friend's doing and what your neighbor's doing, and then you would create a true economy instead of a piece of green paper with a dead man's picture on it, and we'd help each other again, and we would begin to build a true way. I mean, when you hear economic collapse, okay, so what? Big deal. We are collapsed. We are at bankruptcy.
Yeah.
It's just a big lie. I mean, and that's what it is.
I just don't think the neighbor helping neighbor part would come until after the neighbor killing neighbor part.
Well, I believe that if the government is doing what it's doing, with Medicaid and Medicare, HMOs controlled, cutting off welfare, all that kind of stuff, they're going to create roving bands of people and outcasts.
Yes.
And they've planned this. I'm not saying that the government's evil, but I see FEMA, I see how... let me slow down, Art, because I'm having too much fun. But, well, come on,
for one thing, I would like to note that your last interview, and it was a great one, was very different than this one. And there's something about where you've been. Maybe your trip to Lima. I know you're just back by hours. But something happened to you down there. I mean, here you are off an airplane by just a few hours from Peru.
And just been 15,000 feet in the Andes Mountains for 15 days.
Yeah, it's like you're still at 15,000 feet, Daniel.
Oh, you think I should calm down?
No. I'm just noting it. And maybe I ought to just ask you, you must have been spiritually renewed or...
That's exactly what happens, Art.
Yeah.
I go there, and I take a group of people, and it's the moments where I get outside the United States. I travel with Visions Travel, Abbas and Mustafa Nadim, and they're the best tour there is because of how they handle it, and they allow me to take 25 or 30 people, and, well, this was 40 people, and I sit with those people, and we take in the most mystical place in the Americas. We do volunteer work in nursing homes and orphanages as a part of the tour, and we sit and we go through a program that I've developed based on near-death experiences. I take people through a near-death experience in the high Andes Mountains with all of that, and it really affects me.
One quick question. Have you been to a place called Cusco, Peru?
Absolutely.
Is it a very spiritual place?
It's the center of the universe. You can't even imagine. You can't walk on that ground and not know it. I recommend that everyone goes there. I mean, there's places in this world that where I see, by following the predictions.
Daniel, hold tight right there. I'm going to go ahead and run this as bumper. This is a group called Cusco, and this was inspired by a trip to Cusco, Peru. You're listening to Dreamland. I'm Art Bell. We'll be right back.
From the Kingdom of Nye, we continue with your calls on Dreamland with Art Bell. Call Art now toll-free at 1-800-618-8255. 1-800-618-TALK. First-time callers, area code 702-727-1222. 702-727-1222. Or the wildcard line at area code 702-727-1295. 727-1295 in the 702 area code. Now again, here's Art Bell.
Here again I am from the high desert to the world via the internet and this whole great country, way beyond. It's good to be here. I guess I'm going to repeat something I said earlier, and it really falls right in with what Daniel has been saying regarding change on the way. Oh, there's change on the way, all right. All right, back now to my guest, Daniel Brinkley, and during the news, I left some of Cusco on. I just sort of let it go through the news. You didn't hear it, but Daniel did hear it.
It was terrific.
And let me tell you a little story, just real quickly, and maybe you can react to it. About 2 or 3 years ago now, Daniel, I heard this music, which is written by a fellow named Michael Holm, who lives in Bavaria, and it was inspired by a trip to Cusco, Peru, hence the name of the group, Cusco. And I was so drawn to it, and then I met in person. Michael Holm came to my home from Bavaria, came here, and I told him that I was very drawn to it, and very drawn to the idea of going to visit Cusco, Peru. Mind you, not E.T. style. I wasn't mashing potatoes and making them into little things, but I've been kind of drawn and been wanting to go to Cusco, Peru. Would it be a good experience?
For anybody that can get the little cash together to go. It changes your whole perspective, and I'm listening. See, Art, I wanted to ask you, do you think that the nature of the two different people that you knew, one, that rowdy, evangelist, and then this side of me that's this way?
Yes.
I don't know which of those two people you like the most, but anyone who takes the time to take a pilgrimage, who plans it, who follows it exactly to a routine, will uncover and discover spiritual sights of parts of themselves. Machu Picchu does it, and the trips to the Ucay Valley, and I have a route that I go through, changes a person. I just left 40 people at the airport, and the things that they say, because I design it around death and rebirth, and I talk about issues, and I have a whole program. Anybody, and I mean, it's, I recommend it so deeply, because you take yourself out of this world, and you put yourself high in the mountains in the Andes, 15,000 feet culture, and you hear stories, and you meet people, and you understand that all the stuff that we've been hearing all our lives, most of it's a lie to start with. There's one thing and I recommend it, and if ever I'm going, you can come and go with me. I mean, you're welcome.
I would love to. I would love to. I really would love to.
I mean, you're welcome, and I'll see to it, and I'll talk to Abbas, and I try to go 2 or 3 times a year, because it gives me the calm, tranquil inner peace that I need to get out and fight for the rights of people who are leaving this world, to defend the rights, and to give insight to people in my age group who are losing people, and to show them the true joy in the mystical side of this whole life and this adventure. Now think of this, Art. I was doing a television show for UPN called Paranormal Borderline.
Oh, Gordon Michael did it as well.
Yeah, great show. They're doing a good job. And I was listening. I think my show is May the 7th.
May 7th.
May 7th at 9 p.m. on UPN Paranormal Borderline. But what's so significant about it is my segment's just Daniel Brinkley, it has to do with me being able to go from this side of the world to the other side and come back and talk to people on the other side, and that I can do that naturally. I live in both worlds, and I try to teach ways, like in that Peace in the Light, I teach ways that you yourself can do that, and that you can do it faster by being a hospice volunteer than any other way.
All right.
Guess who the first segment is?
Who?
Neil Armstrong.
No kidding.
Neil Armstrong, the Mercury, he was with Mercury 7, 20 years an astronaut, one of the straight, most conservative people, guy from the right stuff. That whole shtick. You know what he's going to say? He's going to say that the government's liars.
What?
That he
what?
has...
Are you sure? Wait, stop.
Listen to me, pal.
Oh, yeah, are you sure about this?
Listen to me.
All right, no, I'm going to stop you, because I'm going to tell you something else first. Because you were out of the country. You don't know this happened. This last Friday evening on NBC's Dateline, Guess who was on?
Who?
Edgar Mitchell, Apollo 14 astronaut. Guess what he said?
They're liars.
He said Roswell was covered up. They lied. They've lied to us about Roswell. He said, we've been visited here on Earth. They're covering that up, too. They lied. That was Edgar Mitchell. It was a total blowaway this last Friday night when you were out of the country.
Well, that's even better because look at who
So
Neil Armstrong.
You're telling me Neil Armstrong's going to come on Paranormal Borderline May 7th, same show you're on.
May 7th at 9 o'clock, and he's going to say, listen,
what?
I saw him. I not only know that there are unidentified flying objects from somewhere outside, I know it. I saw them. The government took pictures of them. Edgar Mitchell wasn't at Roswell.
I understand. You're going to say, are you sure of that? I mean, you were there when he said this?
Yes. You watch it. I think that Paranormal Borderline and to be able, Scott Katama, the producer, he said, listen, Daniel, because I'm really careful. You know the shows that I do, and I don't get myself caught up in controversy. I stay in controversy, but things I know about death and dying. But when I saw Neil Armstrong is going to say, look, I'm tired of it. I saw them on my mission. I saw them around. They took pictures. They've known about it. I was there. Edgar can tell. I know Mr. Mitchell, and he can say anything. Everybody has opinions about what might have been happening. There's a lot of information, and it's been proven that that was that.
Well, Neil Armstrong has hinted in the past. I mean, he went to the White House, for heaven's sakes, and said there are things out there you can't imagine, things lying ahead you can't imagine. Now, he's always hinted.
Well,
but you're telling us
it straight up,
as
straightforward as you'll ever hear it on Paranormal Borderline, and I'm really proud because these are the issues that once we start opening up our consciousness and we realize how controlled that we are, just like what you're talking about the money has to be able to devaluate the United States. They're going to have blue bills and, greenbacks, bluebacks, and redbacks. And that's so that our money can stay domestic, because you can't transfer your money unless you change it into the different kinds of currency. And, I mean, that was a part of the vision that I saw. But I really think that the biggest problem they're all going to have, especially those who try to control us and take our rights, like HMOs. You know, I've got this big thing about HMOs and managed care, because I think it's literally the most horrendous thing that's going to happen to our moms and dads, and I fight against it. But they forget this, Art.
Boy, Daniel, I'm telling you, if Neil Armstrong says what you say he's going to say, it's going to blow everything wide open.
Tell me about it. And that's why I wanted to get it out, and I wanted to be it on, and I don't know if they know I'm telling everybody, but I wanted it to be on the Art Bell Show. I wanted it to be that I saw this, I was there. I have a part of what's going to be on the show is about me, but when I saw him and what he does, I'm really proud to be a part, and I'm really proud to tell your listeners that if you want to see the most ultra-conservative guy...
Oh, hell yes. Daniel,
he doesn't get off on... I like Edgar Mitchell, but noetic science.
No, I hear you.
Went into doing some other kind of stuff.
You've easily topped me now. Did you see a tape of it, what they were going to show? Did you...
I read the transcript.
You read the transcript?
Because before I'll do a show, I have to look at it. I'm only interested in what has to do with dealing with people and how they die. And I don't do UFO
right,
stuff.
I've got you.
But when I sat and I read this, I was staggered. Because, I don't know about all that stuff, but I know Barbara Marciniak, who wrote Bringers of the Dawn, and she's a really wonderful person. I think a lot of her, and I listen to what she says, and she's channeling this stuff from somewhere, but it's so much information. But when a guy who is straight, conservative, who never went off on one tangent, and because of the age of it that he is, and because he sees how much the lie, he's going to say it. He's going to say, hey, look, I saw it. The government knows about it. I don't know why they're continuous doing this, and he's going to, say, because he thinks that once they started covering up, that they couldn't stop, and they built their own little fiefdoms, and they have to self-perpetuate their agencies. And religion, the biggest thing is that religion, if there is a UFO, then what we have been taught in our religious nature becomes almost obsolete.
The magnitude of the news you're breaking right now is gigantic.
Absolutely it is.
All right.
And I mean, I didn't mean to get off on my subject matter, but
glad you did. I'm glad you did. Listen, let me read a fax to you. It's a good one. Mr. Bell, I'm very excited to hear Daniel Brinkley on your show tonight. Read his first book, thoroughly enjoyed it. Lent it to a friend, also enjoyed it. Got a question about one of the revelations Mr. Brinkley made in the book. I remember reading, but can't seem to find it in the book again. There would be a discovery in Egypt that would cause the world to rethink the origins of man. I recently saw a special on the Discovery Channel that theorized the Sphinx was the product of a civilization that was present prior to the Egyptians under the rule of the pharaohs. In fact, the Sphinx is 10,000 years older than previously thought. Is this that revelation come true?
It's the beginning of it. There is absolutely no question, none, that in the next 3 years, two things will come about. The Dead Sea Scrolls and the information that has been contained in them will be released, which will literally revolutionize Christianity. It will change the perspective of Christianity 1,000%. I don't want to get into that because I don't want religious wars. I don't want to break down it. I don't want to break it down any faster than it's doing it to itself.
Yeah.
The other thing is they're going to discover, no question about it, archives, translatable, that literally begin to tell the history of this world that is going to completely alter the way we see ourselves. And this is in the next 3 years. In the midst of war, in the midst of threatenings of war, you know, there's like 35 wars going on. The Chinese, the Indians, and the Pakistanis are on a nuclear, every one of them is preparing to explode nuclear testing. They all, and the Pakistani-Chinese border, they're killing people every day there. So, I mean, this is the world that we're moving into, and what happens if we realize there are extraterrestrial? And what happens once we know that the history as we know it evolved to religious theocratic monarchies all the way to the basis of what we call our religious philosophy of the evolution of man? What's going to happen?
Anarchy.
We will have total breakdown.
Total breakdown. That's what I just said. Anarchy. It'll be complete anarchy.
God, won't that be exciting?
I'm convinced. Oh, Daniel. Listen, we've got to take a few calls. We've just got to do that. It's ringing off the hook here. So let's.
Do you think that means that people like us, Art?
I think that means you've blown them away. I'm sure you've blown them away. You've blown me away. I'm going to have to get a partial recording of this show for tomorrow night. East of the Rockies, you're on the air with Daniel Brinkley. Where are you calling from, please?
Yes, I'm calling from Lexington, Kentucky.
Yes, sir.
Yes, I wanted to ask a question about something he'd mentioned earlier. I have a friend who has a serious medical condition. It's potentially life-threatening, and he had mentioned some alternative healing perspectives that he had. I wonder if he could elaborate on that a little bit.
All right. Do you want to tell us what kind of problem it is?
Well, he's got a multitude of viruses that the medical community can't do anything about.
All right, good.
The first thing that I would do is there's the National Institute for Health Office of Alternative Medicine, who are doing research in those kinds of programs. You can call your congressman and get the NIH OAM. There is another place that you can look. That it's a magazine called Alternative Therapies. That the editor is Dr. Larry Dawsey, who is one of the best. And
well, if my understanding of the Kennedy-Kassenbaum bill is correct, then that would...
You're going to be put in jail if you do it.
Yeah, but you just said there was an NIH...
Office of Alternative Medicine.
What happens to that office?
They're trying to close it now with all their heart, mind, and soul. That's one of the things why I wanted to be on your show, so that people would call and write their congressman and tell them that they support two things, more than they support anything else that those fools are doing up there. And that's the Guarantee to Freedom, the Access to Medical Treatment Act of 1995,
right?
Which is I believe, without question, the most important single piece of legislation that will come in our lifetime. The other thing is to be alerted to the fact that House Bill 310311 was voted on, and it literally, I'll read to you what it says.
What is the number again? 303?
House Bill 310311. And that what is being debated today, they voted on it last Thursday. If everyone would call their congressman and senator and tell them that they are totally opposed to this is what it says. It will make it a criminal act for both the physician and his patient to practice alternative medicines not covered by approved medical establishment. That's taking vitamins, Art.
They're out of their minds.
Well, you know what? if we are out of our minds, if we don't call our congressman tomorrow and our senator, because the House passed it unanimously, as long as there is alternative therapeutic practices in place and we have access to them, they can never control our health care, which is what they're after. How you control the people. And if everyone reads the Saved by the Light, the chip technology that will be implanted, that technology is being advanced to a point where a new deal with the Veterans Administration called TRICARE is issuing medical cards with chips in it that contain your entire medical history. And they're doing this the same way that in Saved by the Light, I write it out. I said, this is what will happen. If I wrote this book in 92 and 93, it would still be a revolution in the predictions. I wrote this stuff down in 1975 and 76, recorded it on cassettes. I mean, I didn't just blow into town yesterday. But it is tomorrow. They're going to vote again on Tuesday, and we will lose our rights. So for the gentleman that we're talking to, alternative therapies and making a decision, I'll tell you, if he has a lot of viruses, there is two things that I would do. I would especially look at Qigong. We have light bodies. One of the things that I learned about being dead, quote unquote, which really never happens, you never die, was that we're composed of a series of light bodies. We have energy fields, and some people call them auras, but we have light bodies. So when a person gets a lot of disease or a lot of things that's happening to them, like viral infections, then they're light bodies, the essence of their ability to break down and assimilate by biochemical reaction, the necessary things to fight it off. Also, a lot of people have a lot of neural problems. That means that you have peptide bonds and you have neurotransmitters that have insufficient mineral salts and trace minerals to actively cause the body to heal itself.
So that's what they're getting ready to do away with.
They have to stop it. If there's alternative therapies in place, that means you'll always have a place where you can seek your own treatment, and they will have to pay for it. They must stop it because it's too threatening and it's too natural. I mean, there is no longer the art of healing. There is the business of medicine. Do you realize, I've read both Medicaid and Medicare bills.
Look, I'm just a layman, Daniel, but it seems to me that this is the kind of thing that will produce an actual bloody, violent revolution.
No kidding.
Yeah, no kidding. How dare they?
That's what, Art, that's what I like about you and your listeners. And that's what I like, because these are my kind of people. I am in the world, as I look at it, to try to strengthen the quality of the final days, because guess who they're talking about? They're talking about our moms and our dads. They're talking about our aunts and uncles and their brothers and sisters. And for me, because I know what it's like to die, I know what it's like to face death, I know what it's like to see the other side, and I know what it's like to come back. So I have brothers and sisters I've never met that's in the same place I am. And since I'm not afraid of it, and I do this every day, I'm around people every day, so I am really good and knowledgeable about all the tricks that they use, what they're trying to do, and how they're trying to do it to control us. And once they can control that with psychological natures of fear-based pattern psychology.
All right, hold it right there, Daniel. It was achieved through the basics. Medical care, access to medical care, food, a shelter. If they control those things, they control you. Man, what a night. Daniel Brinkley, just back from Peru by hours, is my guest, and he'll be right back.
This is the end of Side 1.
From the Kingdom of Nine, you're hearing Dreamland with Art Bell. In the program, call toll-free 1-800-618-8255. 1-800-618, caller free code 702-727-1222, 702-795. This is the CBC Radio Network.
If we haven't called as much as we should have, I'll try and correct some of that. This happened so much from Daniel Brinkley that cold still has me stopped cold. All right, back now to Daniel. A lot of things you say, I'm sure you realize, and I found this out these way, a lot of the things you're saying will make a lot of people really angry.
Good. That means they'll get off their butts and do something.
When people's deeply held faiths, or even cause them to, a lot of people react with absolute anger.
Oh, yeah, those are the ones I like the best.
You know, things that are not so easily put in a box, as it says.
That's what I like about you.
But, Daniel, people will call me sometimes during the week, and they will be just raging at me. I had one, probably the devil himself. I'm leading people down the path. Anything actually, I do.
They're the most delightful people. Go ahead, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that was it. I mean, I took a call. The line said I was leading people to the devil and everything else.
Well, and when people ask me, they say, David, what about people who are skeptical and sometimes even what did you say? So I get along with them great, because if they think they cross a cynical, skeptical person, then they think they are. They should have met the Daniel Brady art. When you start listing, and I laughed, and I said, well, do you mean to tell me that something that took so long, it's been good to me because I've worked my life?
Daniel, I can tell you what they'd say. I can be one of them. They'd say, Daniel, those people, you're not telling them about God, so you've got to be from the devil. Misleading these people. You're costing souls.
See,
I've had the calls. I've had the calls.
You get them to write me letters and tell them to, tell me. Post Office Box 1919, Aiken, 1798. Someone wants to write me, you write me good or bad. If you want the book, you give me a little mail order or cashier's check, and I'll put you on my mail and start putting out my newsletter when I quit this tour. And I'm not afraid of any of that. It's government and religions and institutions who have held us, without us allowing us to truly first that we're powerful spiritual beings, and we're not thinking about it, but it shakes them. They can't become gods, and they can't. When you get all in here 6 months of life to extend life 19 days, and if you get death and read them like I read them, doctors are getting a 20% increase in fees that they can charge. They're also listing the band on if a doctor has a vested interest in a laboratory.
Yes, I know.
Then he can go ahead and your access to medical freedom. Couldn't pay more money, and they're charging you a higher.
East of the Rockies, Daniel Brinkley. Hello, where are you, please? Hello there.
You're committing spiritual adultery.
Daniel, you're...
Than 8,000 people are volunteered to do hospice work.
Let's see if he's... Let's see. No, he bailed out. That's what they do. They call up, usually, and say you're the Antichrist and hang up.
Well, then let's do this. Everyone has that right. We are powerful and mighty spiritual beings. You have a right to believe what you want to believe. I believe there's two ways to know for sure. There's the Daniel long course and the Daniel short course. The Daniel long course is to listen to Daniel and Art Bell with all our hearts and all our souls as just everyday guys with experiences and the ability to open our eyes and look and try to understand it. Then there's the short course, which is to take a screwdriver and stick in a 220 outlet. Call us back when you get up.
West of the Rockies, you're on the air with Daniel Brinkley.
Hello, this is Sharon from Santa Barbara.
Hi, Sharon.
Hi, Sharon.
Hi, Daniel. I've just finished reading your 2 books, and I really enjoyed your information.
Thank you, ma'am.
I'm very moved by your personal mission to create healing centers, and you've only just barely touched on that tonight. Where are you with that development?
I have one completely built, and I had till 92 in the books. I had to till 92.
Yeah. I
have one completely built. I'm still working on the chamber, but I can't figure out what it does. And even when it came from the other side here, I still want to make sure it's just right. Now, I've taken people through it that are terminal, and I usually take them and the primary caregiver. I'm waiting for the research paradigm protocol before I really jump out and start ranting and raving.
In other words, it's going to be a while before you can put out a sign saying over 2 billion served.
Well, I believe that it'll move so fast once that people, if they can't stop alternative therapies, and I believe that these centers are the place and the point where the spiritual side has brought to bear that if they try to stop us from alternative therapies, then these centers will take on any other paradigm for bereavement, trauma recovery, grief recovery, and stress management for healthcare for professionals and caregiving for the caregiver.
All right, well, they can say what they want of you, Daniel, but I'll tell you this. Anybody who's done as much hospice work as you have done, sat by the dying, that many of them, I would be comfortable with your motivations before I would be many others. Believe me, Daniel.
And I do it, but you see, Art, it's what I do best. And I have recruited more hospice volunteers than anybody ever. And there's more people who go and do hospice work every day because of my workshops and seminars, and I get letters from all over the world. They call them Danielites because I teach people. I don't try to compete with hospice. I say, look, go do hospice programs, and then I'll teach you how to get around it because that where we are, us baby boomers, I just came off the mountain and have we all have clinics in my books are where I have seen beings of light come to take someone. I have seen people saying mother's here, and I look at the end of the bed, and it doesn't look like mother to me, but I can see the difference in the light. But in a way, if a person wants to be able to know there's a life after death and find the security in it, then hospice work is it. I think the greatest sin is all this crap that doctors do in religions and institutions to keep us fear-based keeps us from closure. I see events.
Well, that's what I meant when I said they would say to you, you should be putting the fear of God into them.
I don't see them in those hospitals and nursing homes. And you know what gets me, Art? My religion is hospice. And where two or more gather in the name of Spirit, so shall Spirit be there. And I know that that's there because I've seen it. There is only one place in the history and the nature of the human experience where all three systems, mental, physical, and spiritual, in order for electricity or current to work in any form, you got to have a proton, electron, and a neutron.
Yes.
You are the proton. You are the electron. The person leaving this world is the neutron, and the spiritual world is the proton. And when you understand that what's being created between you, that person, and the spiritual world in the breathing techniques that I teach, you are creating the sign of infinity. And where the worlds meet, where the spiritual world, the physical world, and the mental world meet, is at that point. At that point, we have the capability of not only creating a means by which the spiritual world can move through that person leaving this world into you and out into this world to change it, it allows families to have closure. Once closure is in place, a lot of raping and murder and alcoholism and a lot of stuff stops because they have closure, whereas the system in place now will not allow it. And that's the war I fight, because I don't read it in the magazine. I don't form opinions about it because I'm sitting at home hiding. I'm in these nursing homes. I'm in these hospitals. I travel all over this country. I talk to people who are volunteers. I write books about it because we must do it as champions. We must seize control of our lives because it's our moms and our dads, and that's my fight, and that's what I'm after. And I know that there are people out in the group as me facing the same things. And if I wasn't out there and I wasn't giving it everything I got, then I think that if I look at it, if there is somebody out there that has been through what I've been through, and they weren't out here helping me, then who in the hang does that person think they are? Mm-hmm. I'm out here with my brothers and my sisters. I'm out here with Art Bell because he's doing everything in his power to alert the American people and the world who listens to him to the options that are their choices. I never hear about you trying to put some kind of dogma on someone, but you make the information available, and I'm glad I get to play with you so often, Art.
All right, thanks, Daniel. West of the Rockies, you're on the air with Daniel Brinkley. Good evening.
This is Fritz from Phoenix. Damien very well said about the Neil Armstrong situation here, and I put two and two together. Edgar Mitchell probably found out that Neil Armstrong will make a statement on borderline, so he jumped the gun and went on dateline.
That could be.
I agree, because Neil, Edgar's wonderful. He's been through a lot of changes because of the profound spiritual effect it's had on him. Neil is very tight, very conservative, and he is just a guy that hit the age in his life where he's had enough of it.
Well, Fritz, you know and I know what Daniel said tonight is blockbuster news.
That's not blockbuster. It's a major event. If this is true, if the world doesn't react, the world deserves what's going to come. If they don't react, what Neil Armstrong's going to say. And the next astronaut, I'm sure it's going to be Cooper. He will come out of the woodworks, too. The domino's going to fall now.
Yeah, this would do it. I agree with Fritz.
It's May 7th on Paranormal Borderline at 9 p.m. on UPN. It's not going to be in the underground newspaper that you got to meet someone in a corner bar to get you a copy. It's going to go national, and it's that night. And I'm proud to be on the show myself.
It's suddenly, Daniel, like a snowball coming down the hill, gathering more and more weight and velocity as she comes down. It's really coming down the hill right now.
The same way with this issue, the same way with near-death experiences, the same way with alternative therapies. Here's what's going to happen. They will either let go and admit that they are wrong and admit that they've been hiding it and come up with a really good reason and, or just a crummy reason. I don't care. Let's get on to the truth. Let's get on to the issues. Let's get on to broadening our minds as the spiritual event moves toward us. And who cares? Or they are going to try to control it more, lie to us more, and deceive us more, and it's just which way they go determines how we go.
All right, Daniel, first-time caller line. You're on the air with Daniel Brinkley. Hello.
Hello, how are you, Art?
Just fine. Where are you?
I'm calling from above the hills in Jacksonville.
All right.
On the mighty KOPE.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for taking my call, and thank you for bringing this to the air.
You bet.
And my question is, first of all, we didn't get on with any visions that he might have had, any prophecy, anything that's going to come about, and I wanted to cover that if we get time. And second of all, I'd like to ask you, Mr. Brinkley, I'm involved right now in a group in our area. We live up here in the forest, and we're very concerned about the direction that this has taken. And I've lived here in the area for many years and have seen the forest practically disappear. And it
with the New Sessions Act that was just recently passed, Mr. Clinton sold the land for $1 to destroy the entire virgin timber.
That's right, and we're seeing that because we live here in it, and I've lived here in it for a long time, and I'm very concerned in it, and it wrenches me deep in my heart to see
I
this
can tell
happening.
you something. That is just another part about what is happening to everybody. James Redfield, because see, I get involved in it. I don't hide from these things. There is a group that is in Washington, D.C. I'm working with James Redfield and Steven Seagal, the action heroes.
Oh, yes.
The person, Steven Seagal is a very good friend of mine, and so is James Redfield, the author of the Celestine Prophecy. And we have been looking at the salvage rider bill, and it's coming up again. And I have a copy of the information. It's called the First or Bradley bills. And if anybody would like to call to be able to join this business, it's 202-544-9219. What always amazes me is this. When everyone knows that how we breathe are these trees. Now, what happens, you're going to have a lot of beautiful houses, but no air to breathe. And it's another part of the government being able, and I'm not really anti-government, everybody, because there's some good, hard-working, wonderful, decent people, but they're caught up in the system, trapped. They got to make those decisions because they have to feed their families. But we have to look at what's happening in our environment, in our health care, in the deception of the government, in the secret spies, in the big brother system, in the control of the monies, and it comes down to why are they doing this?
Daniel, we're about out of time. His other question was with regard to prophecy, and I don't see how he could have listened to tonight's program.
There's been 30 or 40 really good ones.
And not heard a lot of prophecy, close in at that, and a lot of shockers. Daniel?
Tell him to write me, and I will send him copies. Tell people to send me 2 checks, and I'll send them. I'll get at Peace in the Light and Saved by the Light. I'll autograph them, and I'll send them to him if it takes me the rest of my life.
All right, it's Post Office Box. It's Daniel Brinkley, Post Office Box 1919, Aiken, A-I-K-E-N, South Carolina, zip code 29802, right?
$13.50 for each book, and please write on the envelope, Art Bell is wonderful.
Daniel, as always, it's a great pleasure. I'm glad we caught you at such a interesting moment in your existence.
Before you go, Art, please explain that to me. What is the difference?
I don't know. I sense a changed Daniel, an affected Daniel, by being in Peru, I'm sure.
Come go with me, Art.
Yeah, I
will walk you through a near-death experience. I'll take you to the Crystal Cities, and I have my program that I've designed, Enlightening Shamans, and I take them to people to a monastery that has the most most spiritual energy, that it relaxes you, gives you new focus and direction, and I'm good for another 6 months, and then I'll burn out, and I'll take myself right back down there.
Well, I'm past time, so it sounds...
You're welcome to come with me.
Sounds good.
Call Visions Travel in Los Angeles and tell them I sent you.
All right, Daniel, thank you.
Hey, thank you, Art. I love you very much. And the listening audience, please tell everybody about Art Bell. Good night, Art.
Daniel Brinkley, that's it, everybody. We're out of time. I'm happy of tonight's show, and this really ought to be one that you should want to archive. Please call 1-800-917-4278. Let me give that again. 1-800-917-4278. 4278. To get my book, The Art of Talk, it's 1-800-864-7991. That's 1-800-864-7991. Till next week from the high desert. Good night.
This has been Dreamland, a program dedicated to an examination of areas in the human experience not easily nor neatly put in a box. Things seen at the edge of vision, awakening a part of the mind as yet not mapped. Yet things every bit as real as the air we breathe but don't see. Please join us again next week at this time for Dreamland.